All right, hey everybody, welcome to This Pink Cloud. Yeah, this one's gonna be just like trying to wrangle cats, man. I can already tell. This is This Pink Cloud. We are a show all about recovery and multiple pathways to it, also mental health, all that kind of good stuff. I am DJ Kelly Reverb. I am an RSPS. Thank you, thank you. And oh yeah. Be sure we are creeping up on that 1,000 subscriber mark, which is a big deal for us because we've been doing this for like 2 years. And please hit subscribe if you are out there listening on the YouTubes, watching all that kind of good stuff. Sitting in with me, the lovely, the talented, the somewhat abusive Chad Lamons.
I don't know what he's talking about, man.
I'm the nicest
He's
guy
the one
ever.
who needs therapy, bro.
Hey, I never mess with Kelly. Right?
No, man.
Yeah.
I'm just I'm selfless.
You are an innocent bystander, and I verbally abuse you daily
and physically, but we're not going to talk about that.
Right, the physical part you actually like. Then.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
I said at the wrong time right then.
Yeah.
That's what I do when Kelly talks. I'm just like, yeah.
Oh yeah, dude. It's like I'll be talking. And then I'm like, what did I say, Chad?
I'm just like, yeah.
No, it's for like in a relationship. It's like, what did I say, Chad? What did I
this
say?
gave me an idea for therapy. It'd be like bromance couples therapy.
Exactly.
Yeah,
for dysfunctional bromance.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we're highly functioning. We're just angry at each other.
Yeah.
Often.
That's denial.
There you go. It's it's okay though. Actually, it's kind of funny. I think.
It's okay not to be okay.
There we go. There we go.
Hurts.
Hey, sometimes what Chad says to me hurts my feelings.
All right, man.
Anyway, but sitting in with us, I love this guy. It's always a pleasure when we can get him in here. I like to call him the King of the North. He is an LPC, LCDC, and a recovery famous dude because you're out there thriving, dude. I think everybody knows that you're kind of in recovery and, because you're doing events. I mean, you do the recovery Dharma. You're kind of like the spearhead of that Sangha, if you will, right?
It's basically shameless self-promotion at
right.
the end of the day.
Right. Well, I mean, but honestly, I think recovery Dharma is really cool and a really cool opportunity of somebody, that is sober curious. Great spot to check out a recovery Dharma meeting.
Yeah, we'd love to have you. I appreciate it. And yeah, we're out there in Plano. We're out there in Dallas. If you want to check us out, you can look up the Facebook pages, Recovery Dharma Dallas and Recovery Dharma Plano. 2 locations, one Sangha, one song Sangha.
There we go. Love it. Love it. And these guys are actually friends of yours that we have coming in. It is, first off, Brandon Veltman.
Yes.
Pleasure. And then and Robert Wilson.
Hey.
And you dudes are the TRI-MIGOS, which is basically a big part of y'all's recovery is triathlons, correct?
Correct.
Okay, cool. So we are excited to hear about this, but always we like to give the guest an opportunity to tell their backstory. So Brandon, I guess we will start with you.
I grew up here in Dallas. Age about 15 years old, I started using drugs for the first time. And it was actually LSD.
Well, hold on. Wait, hold on. You started with LSD.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
cool.
So I started tripping acid a lot.
Uh-huh.
Slinging a little bit in school too.
So no alcohol whatsoever.
No,
just straight LSD.
yeah.
Okay, all right. That's unique.
So I grew up around my stepdad. He was a huge beer drinker, and there's alcohol in the fridge always, but never touched it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't want to say never, but
what? Okay, so
how
how does that happen? How does a 15-year-old all of a sudden? Oh, dude, I got this LSD plug.
So basically, I started to listen to techno music. Or,
Okay.
or house
Don't blame
music.
it on that. Yeah. Okay.
Kelly Reverb music.
Yeah, right.
So then I started going to raves.
Uh-huh.
You know, that was the big thing at during that time. And, and so I started taking acid. Yeah.
Okay.
I wanted experimental taste of the nightlife, I guess you could say.
Okay.
So
That'll
that.
definitely do it.
So around 16, or no, I was still 15. I got my first job at Kroger,
Okay.
and at Kroger they had one of those Kodak bars. I don't know if you remember those.
Okay.
So they would actually develop film there at the
Yeah.
Kroger.
Back when there was film.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so two guys that used to work there used to always go out to their car and smoke weed. So I would I was a cart boy there at Kroger, so I was pushing carts. And
Okay, first off, I was one at Tom Thumb, so no shame in that. And we were called package clerks.
Oh, okay.
Package
Okay.
clerks. We had a title. And a fucking bow tie, dude. I
didn't have a bow tie.
Bow tie and a smock.
Smart.
Yeah, it was not a
Rocking
good.
a
It was
smock.
not a good look to try to pick up chicks, dude. I'm gonna be honest. Yeah. So anyway.
So I would be pushing in carts, and I would always see smoke coming out of their car, and I was
Cheech and Chong.
I was very curious, you know. So
Right.
I always, and they would come in and they were just blitzed, you know. Their eyes was blitzed. So I would eventually I took a load of carts up to their car, and I was like, hey, yeah, I'll partake, and jumped in with them and smoked, got high, and that was the taste of the marijuana part of my life. And then throughout probably like 16, 17 years old, I started going to the clubs, fish dance.
Fish
you're
dance.
familiar
Nice.
with fish dance.
Well,
And,
fish dance used to be fast and cool for the older people, and then eventually red jacket for the younger crowd.
Yeah. So fish dance in the parking lot of fish dance. First time I ever tried cocaine.
Okay.
So I did blow that. That was the first time so all this was just experimental first timers.
Sure.
But then I started using every weekend during the week. Quit going to school.
And were you doing the trifecta? Were you doing LSD every weekend?
Oh, no.
And,
So the LSD probably stopped when the cocaine began.
Okay.
So,
Gotcha.
Yeah. So I started doing coke a lot, actually. Drinking too. So I started drinking a little bit at that time. Ecstasy too. Because of the nightlife, you know. So ecstasy was huge. I ended up not completing high school locally, and I had to be shipped off to Washington, D.C., actually.
Okay.
So I went to a preparatory school up there, found dope up there.
They had dope in Washington, D.C. Newsflash.
Actually, at that time, Mayor Marion Barry. I'm not sure if you remember him. So he.
Yes, we do.
He's in recovery now. I think.
Right.
Yeah, is he? Yeah.
All right.
Well,
Good for him.
Well, he was a crackhead. I
Yeah.
guess, and a mayor, same time.
I know. That's so crazy.
He was.
So and they reelected him. So that's DC for you.
Yeah.
Progressive,
so I ended up finishing high school there at a preparatory school. Came back, and this is when I started to get into trouble, where drugs started to affect my life more.
Okay.
I was in Addison. I just came back for Valentine's Day actually, and I was spray painting walls in Addison. Which you shouldn't do that.
Right.
And
They
and
don't-
I also had a little bit of cocaine on me too.
They do not. They frown upon graffiti in Addison.
So yeah, so I had a little bit of cocaine also at the time. They found that. So I was so that was my first charge basically. As a felony charge, got 2 misdemeanors as well. In that, evading arrest because I tried to run, but wasn't successful.
Right, yeah.
So ended up getting caught.
Brandon, would they have caught you now, though?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know.
He's
now.
got those wheels, dude. Yeah.
So I ended up doing 4 years probation, 3 years probation, but it got extended because I failed 2 drug tests.
Okay.
And it was here in Dallas. It was 3 strikes you're out rule. So it was funny because when we were coming down here, I was like, man, last time I come downtown, I was going to the Frank Crowley You know? And it's been a long time, you know. So it felt like I was coming to court when I came into this building. But so I ended up failing 2 drug tests. They extended my probation a year. I moved to Austin because I wanted to get away from Dallas. You know?
Right.
So I was like,
because that's the problem, dude, right?
Geographical
exactly.
change, you know, right? Yeah. Geographical solution.
But it's of course Austin's not the place. You know.
You're kidding.
So I ended up. But what was cool about Austin though was I never got drug tested again from my PO down there.
Okay.
You know, and the little card that you would get signed at the AA meetings or whatever, I just had my friends sign that. Ended up completing probation, you know, the 4 years of probation, which is good. I guess I never learned anything from it, but I ended up moving.
Well, it's kind of hard to learn when you're not actually going to the meetings.
Yeah.
When you're having your friend sign.
Definitely not. So actually, let's back up a little bit. Before I did that, I was here in Dallas, and when I failed those 2 drug tests, I lived in Oak Cliff off of Madison, and because my grandfather he used to build houses. He was an ear, nose, and throat doctor, but he'd build houses for, you know, just for fun, I guess. Okay. And he had a lot of properties, older properties down here, so I was able to live in one of them, and that's when I got in touch with heroin, actually. So,
oh, wow.
So, yeah. And during that time frame was when a lot of Carrollton, because I grew up in Carrollton, and a lot of Carrollton kids were dying of heroin. And it was touching the schools, and it became a big thing that was sweeping through basically the North Dallas area.
You're talking about when the cheese thing hit?
Yeah, heroin cheese. Yeah. Same basically. So I learned how to grind it up in a coffee grinder from black tar heroin, get dormant caps, and
you make it the Chicago way, dude.
Yeah. Chicago style.
Dormant.
Chicago style heroin.
Dorman's expensive, man. Yeah. Dorman is like an expensive sleep aid. I was like, fuck that, man. I'm just gonna go grind up some Walmart or Walgreens sleep aid. You know what I mean? But Dorman was the fancy shit, man.
Oh yeah. So I bought that off of Jefferson. There was a small little drugstore off of Jefferson, and I'd buy that Dorman there. But the guy, he didn't speak any English, and he taught me the steps. And he was and he had his cousin was translating, you know, how to do this, where to purchase it here locally. He would supply the black tar. And so anyways, I got into that. After that, I started to get sick and started to feel what the
side effects of
shitty
drugs.
part of heroin. Right. Yeah. So heroin was good for about a week, and then it became shitty.
I do have a question for you. Do you? Because I always say, like, I mean, and not like I'm like high and mighty or anything, but because like I always say that I got the memo on heroin, but did you like not get that, or did you just get it and ignore it? Because I know Chad got it, or Chad heard that memo, but then just said it has to be fantastic and I need to try it.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, I always like to ask.
There's not one person that told me it was great. You know what I mean?
I'll tell you what I never did. I never shot dope.
Okay.
So I never shot dope. So I always thought that was the
right.
the end all there, you know?
That was
if
the bad
shooting
stuff.
Dope, man,
right.
You know,
yeah.
You're never going to go back to just snorting dope.
Right.
Whatever,
right.
Know? So that was the whole thing.
That was your
like,
I can't shoot it. As long as I don't shoot it, then I'm good.
Yeah.
Right. I got it under control.
So anyway, let's go back to moved to Austin, moved away, tried to get away, finished probation. Ended up finding she became my wife, my son's mother. We were together for 8 years, moved back to Dallas. We built a house up in the Colony area. Ended up getting divorced when he was 2. I bought a house in Carrollton around that time, and basically life started to crumble again because there was no structure there.
Right.
Basically, so you know, with a wife, there's some structure.
Sure.
Know?
There's some rules that come with a
with
wife.
With my thinking and my brain, no structure, you know. Right. So I ended up just hanging with friends. Basically got caught back up with Dusty, started working at bars and stuff.
Right.
And,
blame it on Dusty.
And it became like it was every night party, basically.
Oh, yeah.
You know? And so I tried to escape again. I think Dusty was escaping at that time, too, and moving to, I think, where'd you move to? Padre?
Padre
Island.
Padre
Yeah.
Island.
Dusty often escapes to South Padre. Dude.
So he escaped and he went to Padre, and and I escaped back to Austin because I had a sibling living there. Lived there for a year, working a bar there. Nothing changed.
Right.
And I was looking for Coke every single night.
Sure.
You know, drinking with everybody at the bar, you know. And so what really got me was I went back to Dallas, and we couldn't find Coke, but they had meth.
Oh,
So,
well,
yeah.
dude. Cheaper.
So this was it, man. When I had meth, when I found meth, that it was like, this was a life changer for me.
Right.
You know, I loved.
Well,
it.
it's
I
like
loved it,
it's
you
like
know?
switching from beer to vodka.
Oh man, yeah, and it's it was like what I've always been looking for too.
Right.
You know, was meth. So I was like, I was getting stuff done. You know, I used to not complete projects. All of a sudden, I was completing projects, but then it didn't take long for everything to just spiral out of control. You know, and I wasn't completing anything, and I became everyday user of methamphetamines.
Right.
Lost my jobs. Decided, hey, to supply my habit, let's start selling some meth, you know?
Right.
So I started slanging meth. And that house became just like basically a trap house almost.
Right.
You know? People were coming in and out, living with me for short periods, gone. Well, what came down to it was 3 officers, and they were in street clothes, came to my front door. And they had an 8x10 of 2 other guys, I'm not going to name their names, and me, basically, and asked, hey, are you guys, we've heard that you've been selling meth out of this location. So of course, I told them no, and they were like, well, can we come in and just take a look around? And I was like, well, you don't have a warrant, so no. Let's
Sure.
not. And at that time, I had weed growing in the back of the house.
Right.
I had who knows what else was all around the house. You
Right.
know? I had a lot of canisters of MAP gas, which that's how you would blow pipes basically with MAP gas. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that.
Not, but okay. Now I am.
So you blow glass.
I'm writing
pipes.
this down.
Yeah, you could blow your own glass pipes.
Right.
So I had a lot of those empty canisters all laying around. It was just horrible, you know, horrible living environment and a horrible place to be.
Right.
So I blamed it. I had a Rottweiler at the time. I blamed it on my dog. I was like, my dog's
Poor dog.
Yeah, I was like, he's acting crazy right now, and it's not a good time for you guys to come in.
Right.
And they go, okay, well, we'll be seeing you soon, basically.
Right.
So of course,
With a warrant.
Of course, right then we got everything from the bongs to the weed plants, everything, and we gathered it all in a Tupperware bin, threw it in the fireplace, and lit it all on fire. And that's with live ammunition. We had live ammunition, and because we had guns in the house, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
And basically the fire department shows up. Those cops don't show back up. You know, those officers, and but the fire department does. Everybody in the house evacuates. You know, and so even me, I take off running out the back.
Right.
Back.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm not gonna stick around to see what they're gonna tell me. You know.
Right.
So basically, a month later, the house gets raided. Okay, and I'm going to pick up dope at White Rock Lake area, and then I'm coming back. The whole house is asleep because we haven't had any meth for a while. You know? So I was bringing back the score, you know, and when I was bringing it back, they already arrested 7 people in my house, and then we were driving down the street. Well, they ended up pulling me over 3 houses down, which later I'll tell you that benefited me by them doing that. I ended up going to Denton County.
And the house that they were doing, was that in your name?
Yes.
Oh,
yes,
wow.
yes.
Okay. That's always
So
fun.
they had a warrant for that. And
Right.
and the only reason they were still sticking around was because they were waiting for the dog pound to come pick up the dog. Because they weren't going to leave their dog in a vacant house. So they pulled us over. I'm laid back in a seat. You know, they don't even know that I'm in that vehicle, actually. But they've seen the vehicle in front of the house before. So they ended up pulling over that vehicle, and the girl gets out. They find the dope in between the seats. It was tucked under in a Whataburger bag.
That's a good spot.
It was enough dope to land me a 5 to 99 year sentence.
Yeah.
So I it was more than just for personal use.
Right.
You know? So
yeah, it was for distribution.
For the whole, it was for the whole house, you know, and others, you know. So it's so I ended up basically going to Denton County for about 30 days. I got released on bond. It was $112,000 bond or something like that. Luckily, my mother, I guess, she loves me. So,
hey,
yeah,
that's a good thing.
I mean, my stepdad was totally like, no, leave his ass in there. Let's not get him out, you know. But she ended up getting me out, which is a good thing. From there, I went. The attorney I talked to, he said check into a rehab center right away.
Right.
Even though I was clean, still you need something to show the judge that, hey,
you're serious about it. Right. Yeah.
So I went to at that time it was Billy Gregory Pine Street in Fort Worth.
Yeah.
So
Pine Street.
Yeah. So
and for those that don't know, Pine Street is actually a free facility in Fort Worth.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like the 24-hour club of Fort Worth.
Yeah. Yeah. So I didn't have insurance at that time because I wasn't working, of course, coming straight out of jail. So a free rehab center was perfect, you know, and it's very structured. Men and women weren't allowed to communicate with each other.
Yep.
You know, it was perfect for me. They didn't fail me. I failed them in the end.
Right.
I spent 45 days in there, ended up getting out. After that, I went back out for 3 more years.
Okay.
And
all while navigating probation.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't even on probation at this time, so
okay.
we haven't even seen the judge yet to be sentenced. You know, I'm sorry. When I was in Pine Street, my lawyer got me off these charges, but they didn't tell me.
Oh, okay.
So because they wanted me to stay in that 45-day program, they didn't want me bailing out.
For sure.
He got me off on the charges because I told you that they pulled me over 3 houses down, which. That search warrant was only for the house,
right,
and the cars surrounding that house in a certain vicinity,
right,
but not 3 houses down, you know. So there was no reason for them to even search that vehicle.
There we go.
Yeah, so I got off on the charges. He got me off, and I still got slammed with they found Xanax in the house and Adderall.
Okay.
And I got 2 felony charges that
did you not
still stuck with?
Did you not have a prescription for those? You had unprescribed drugs in your house? Wow.
So I went back out 3 years, started using heroin to come off of that meth. So I got back into heroin again, and I was like, hey, I need to break that meth. I'm tweaking too hard. You know, I need to just chop it down a little bit. Let me start doing a little bit of heroin. I used to take the black tar and put it in like an Afrin bottle. And just mix it with water and just carry it around with me.
All day, baby.
Yeah. Just snort it all the time. So I ended up.
You sure have bad allergies.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, dude.
So I ended up getting sick from that heroin and hospitalized where I can't. I'm having uncontrollable just vomiting. Yeah, I couldn't stop, man. Something I thought it was a bug at first, but it wasn't.
Right.
Checked myself into Baylor, Scott and White, or I'm not sure what it was.
Yeah, whatever it
was at that time. And they found traces of heroin in my blood, and my son was with me also. So I knew CPS would be the next thing that was about to come around. So,
how old's your kid at that time?
Let's see. He's about 11, 12.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So and he witnessed a lot of this lifestyle because my ex-wife, was very cool, and she never wanted to take full custody or any of that. And she always allowed me to see him, but he was seeing all this, this lifestyle. Why I was watching him. Even Dusty saw my son a few times while we were probably partying and getting high. You know,
right? That
my son was just hanging out with us. You know,
right?
So basically from that moment, I end up going to Grapevine Valley Hope.
Yeah.
Okay. So that was the rehab that. I only stayed 15 days. Insurance ran out. That's a big. That sucks, you know, when insurance runs out because you want to stick with the program, you know, finish it up.
Right.
15 days. They said, "Oh yeah, he's fine." You know, they always report back to the insurance company, and if you're doing good, then you're doing well. You know, so
right.
So I got out of there. I've been clean since. That was 8/12/2016. So.
Oh,
So,
wow. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Almost 7 years. I'm coming up.
Right. Well,
awesome.
what would you say? Okay, so I like to say this. Like, what would you say was maybe paramount? Like, if you're looking at bullet points of your recovery or how you recovered, what would maybe the top 2 or 3 things be that made a difference to you? Was it just you were tired of it, or what was
this
it?
is okay. There you go. I wanted to retire from drugs at age 40.
Okay.
So, but I got it cut short. 39 is when I had to stop.
Okay.
Okay. And
I like you had a career goals, dude. I like it.
So them taking away my son was probably the huge bullet point right there. And I wanted to live.
Okay.
You know, I mean, I wanted to live. You know,
Right.
I didn't want to die. And then structured living. Right after that, my stepdad passed away in this whole time of my active addiction, and I got to move in with my mother and help take care of her. So that was the accountability and the structure that I needed. You know, I wasn't ever going out.
Right.
She's in a gated community.
Right.
I wasn't leaving. You know, if I was, it'd freak her out. You know.
Yeah.
So it was just working back home basically.
Right.
For a good couple of years there, and that's when I got into the whole trying hard shit basically. You
Right.
know, and the racing and the running. You know.
Right. And then, so did you ever even did meetings or AA ever really?
Okay, so-
was that a part of?
So this is where I met Robert, actually,
okay.
and the TRI-MIGOS. We all met in the NA rooms.
Oh, okay,
So
cool.
yeah. So I met Robert. I used to look up to Robert, man. He was he's a big influencer for my recovery.
Right.
Dusty, huge influencer.
Dusty was a huge influencer for a bunch of shit I did.
But in my recovery also.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I would always, I might be catching the wrong thing, but I would always see Dusty's doing good things in Padre Island or something like that.
Right, yeah.
Because he's staying away from the dope, you know. So,
Right.
So, but Robert, man, he had a nice truck. He had a lot of clean time. And,
Right.
And when he would go to the meetings, he was well spoken.
Yeah.
Oh man, so I looked
Right.
up to him. You know,
Well, cool.
And we're the same age, but I was like,
Right.
then I caught on. He has a Garmin watch, so this is how runners know each other.
Right. By the watch,
By the
the
Garmin
gear.
watch and the,
Right.
and the Hokas of the Brooks or the running shoes.
Sure.
You know, so
Well, hey, before we get to your story, let's throw it a commercial real quick. We have Max the Axe, which is our favorite personal injury attorney. If you go to thispinklawyer.com, it will take you to Lone Star Injury Attorneys. He is a personal injury attorney, and he practices in Texas and California. Good dude and no gatekeeping. So if you shoot him an email, he will definitely get back to you if you've got questions regarding your personal injury case. And then my favorite part of the show is when I turn it over to Chad, and Chad does whatever Chad does on this part. But it is Stepping Stones Sober Living. And let me go ahead and give you that number real quick. That's 920-454-0569. His name is Joe. And Chad will read you a commercial courtesy of AI in whatever voice Chad decides to use.
All right, yeah.
So it's usually Morgan Freeman, but then it was almost
Hannibal
Lecter last week. So
all right, let's see. What do we got? What do we got for Joe today?
Well, you got the South Park announcer voice is always good.
I'm gonna go with. We'll go foreign this time. Are you or someone you know struggling with this addiction and looking for a safe and supportive environment to begin the road to recovery? Oh, Stepping Stone Sober Living is the place to go. We know firsthand that the journey to sobriety can seem impossible. Oh, man. But you never have to do it alone. Our community provides the support and encouragement you need to stay on track and achieve your recovery goals. We offer clean, comfortable accommodations. That's crazy that he lets me do this, dude.
Yeah.
Oh, man. And he sees me all the time. He's like, man, that shit was good, dude.
Right. Thank you. You're on point, dude.
Plus, our location is conveniently close to historic downtown McKinney and several vibrant recovery groups, so you can easily access the support and the resources you'll need to succeed. Dude, it is so tough.
I love it, dude. No, I love it. You made it through.
But here's the last part.
Okay, one more.
Recovery is a journey, not a destination. So if you're serious about your recovery, then we want to help.
I love it. And that is Stepping Stones Sober Living. That number again is 920-454-0569.
And I've seen the houses, and they're actually like nice.
Yeah, he just got a new one, right?
Yeah,
So it's
dope.
nice and new and clean and running a good ship over there.
Yes, he is. He is very much so, and he's a very good dude.
Right on.
They're heavily involved.
And then we also have our new song out that, we hardly ever really talk about the fact that you and I produce music as well, and then DJ and all that kind of fun stuff. But this one is actually going to be on Spotify by the time this episode airs. So
Yes.
you can look it up on Spotify, but it is a song by me and Chad, and it is called Something Beautiful.
There we go. We did that song. That song was because
That
the
was
number
because
one,
number
the
one
number
hit.
one greatest artist in the entire United world of all time ever is Madonna. Oh my God, I love Madonna.
That is his Madonna voice. He's got the Italian kind of, maybe, effeminate, a little bit
Oh my
Madonna
God, I
voice.
love Madonna.
That was something beautiful. Yes.
That is. But, be sure and check that one out on Beatport and then also on all major streaming platforms. And if you like that song, I made it. And if you don't, then Chad made it. Anyway. All right. Well, and then we've got, so you were just talking about Robert and how y'all met in the rooms and how you looked up to him as far as a recovery role model, because I think what you said there is kind of important, that you have somebody that you actually kind of respect, maybe helping you out or somebody that you can look up to.
You saw somebody that had what you wanted.
There you go. There you go. The law of attraction.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. All right. So Robert, hit us with what you have.
All right. Well, thanks for having me, first of all.
Well, yeah, thanks for coming on. I appreciate it.
I really appreciate you guys having us, and the message is great. I didn't know Dusty and my addiction, but I would like to go ahead and blame mine on his.
I'd like to blame everything on Dusty.
Yeah, the professional scapegoat.
Right. Yeah,
for
dude.
everything that I do,
My 17 years, Dusty. And when the dog gets arrested, things are bad.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
It's bad.
Yes, for sure.
Right. That might have been my bottom. I don't know.
Right.
But thanks for having me on. So my story is a little similar to Chad. I just actually got through listening to your story on the way down here. I started using at 12.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't have to go far. It was in my house.
Right.
My parents were addicts. So yeah, I grew up watching all the dysfunction. They loved us, of course they loved me and my brother. I have a younger brother, but growing up in it, it's a weird relationship with, when you see it from the standpoint of being a child in the house, you grow up in it, you watch the consequences, you watch the addiction, it's a progressive disease, right? So, I mean, from as early as I can remember, my parents sold, we're just completely in that life.
Right.
So growing up, I saw
You
that.
knew nothing else. That was your norm.
That was my normal. Yeah, it was my normal for a long time. So you learn to really despise it. You hate it because you see what it's doing in your life. And then when I was 13, my dad got sent to prison, and I remember coming home from school that day, and he got 40 years. So it was a long time. There's a lot that led up to this, but when he went to prison, I remember thinking, now I'm off the hook. I can do whatever I want. My mom was not the disciplinarian. She had no control over my brother and I. She could barely keep her own herself together, much less the house.
Right.
I mean, I say this loosely. You know, heroin addicts don't typically keep the house together, right?
Right.
No.
But when you took the two, my dad was the stronger of the two. So he somehow managed to feed us, keep the electricity on most times. With Mom, it was just all the wheels fell off pretty quickly. Yeah. So my younger brother went to live with my aunt who, you know, offered a stable location. I chose not to because I was already 13 in my head. I was kind of a grown up.
Yeah, you already had it under control, right?
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Dad's gone. I got this.
Got this, man. Got it. Yeah. And I didn't even know what that meant, that level of that feeling of freedom. It wasn't like I was really using at the time. I had already tried marijuana once, but it was just like a blink. I tried it, and then I didn't go back for a while, mainly because I was scared of consequence. I was skipping school a lot, smoking, you know, started smoking pot, doing that, but not consistently.
Right.
When my dad left, I just went off the chain. I went off the deep end. I mean, I started trying everything. First dime bag of weed I bought was from my mom. My mom
nice.
Got it and got her one too. You know?
Nice.
So yeah, really weird.
Thanks, Mom.
Right. So yeah, it just progressed. I mean, as I went on, I started drinking, smoking pot. Mine was the traditional progression. You know, Brandon started with LSD. I didn't start with hard drugs. I watched hard drugs my whole life, but I hated them. You know, I didn't want to do that because I saw what it was doing to my family, to my life, what it had done to me.
Right.
My dad was in prison because of that. You know, I had no idea at the time, no concept of the disease, how the disease works, the progression, addiction itself, none of that. I just knew my parents did drugs, they couldn't stop, and my life sucked because of it. So I hated drugs, not my parents.
Right.
I hated what they were struggling with. And so I swore it off. You know, let me back up a second. You know, when you're living in that life, pot and drinking, like marijuana and alcohol, are nothing. It's like seeing somebody smoke a cigarette on the street right now. You don't think anything about it because it's so lightweight compared to what you've been around that it just seems normal.
Right.
I had an uncle that's an alcoholic, and it was like he was the successful one of the family. You know?
Right. Yeah, sure.
Because he was just an alcoholic.
Right.
So there was a lot of that, you know. So when I started smoking and drinking, it wasn't like it was a super taboo thing, even at 13 years old.
Right.
Now, there were a lot of people that obviously didn't want to party with a 13-year-old, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
And at the time, I wondered why. But obviously now I have a 13-year-old at home, and I know exactly why you don't party with a 13-year-old.
Right.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, that it's like not normal.
It's not legal.
Yeah, it's not
You
legal.
go to jail.
And not normal. Yeah.
It's not normal. Yeah. There's all kind of red flags there, right? So, yeah, I mean, basically by the time I was 16, I was addicted to heroin. That's the progression, you know, and there was a couple stops in between. Like I got on pills
But knowing how bad, that's kind of ironic because you were trying to stay away from that when you were a kid, like because you got the memo from your parents.
Oh yeah.
Hey, you're gonna go to prison. You
but
know,
it
for
didn't happen
40
to me.
years. But
It wasn't gonna happen to me.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
like it's almost like
unique.
a self-fulfilling prophecy, man. Like we
Yeah.
become what we hate the most whenever we feel like shit inside.
Right.
Yeah, I think there's if I can, I think there's a subconscious piece that overrides the logical brain, right? Because, my dad was an addict too, the prison, all of that I was taught from a very young age. Don't do this or you're going to end up like your father. I was well aware of it, but the subconscious need to play out exactly the only thing that I knew took over. So that's all I knew. So why would I do anything different?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah, especially when you like see people talking into mics and stuff. You know what I mean? It's, you know what I mean?
Peer pressure.
Every time, dude.
Dusty's not gonna say another
He
word.
says he says some amazing stuff, and it's just like, yeah, and here's this knowledge of wisdom that I'm about to bring to you.
I have a reflex when something touches my lip.
It's the beard. It's
Right.
It's a trauma response.
protecting
Right.
the beard.
There you go.
Protect that thing. Right. So yeah, exactly. It's like what you said. It's the progression, but it's also, you hate this thing because you've watched it destroy your family. Mm-hmm. But it's the self-centeredness of the disease. You talk about me witnessing all that, and when I first tried those drugs, up in my head the whole time I'm thinking, I'll never be that. I'll never do that.
Yeah.
And when I did finally give in and try those, my justification was, I'm not going to be like them.
Right.
I won't do it that way.
Sure.
So I was
I'm gonna
snorting
do
it.
it
I'm not
better.
going to shoot it. I'm going to snort it.
Right. Yeah, like him.
Successfully
Right, yeah.
use heroin.
Yeah.
Right? It sounds crazy, right?
Sure.
But yeah, that's how we trick ourselves in our head at the time. You don't even know what's going on, but you've just justified. It's like my first huge justification in my life was that
Right.
one. It was like, you know,
Giving
I'm not
yourself the pass to even do the drug.
gonna, I'm just going to do it on the weekends, you know?
Sure.
Be a
There you
weekend
go,
guy.
yeah.
Yeah.
Of course.
I'm not going to wake up every day and go do it first thing and have
Right.
to get well and have to chase it and steal and do it. Yeah, that's
Right,
not
yeah.
me. Yeah.
Of course not.
Yeah. But eventually it was me. Yeah, that's how it works, right? I can look back now and I can see the path clearly, but when I was in the path, it was impossible to see the path. That
Always
makes
is.
sense, right?
Yeah.
If I'd have had that clarity at the time, I might not have done what I did.
Sure.
But I didn't have the clarity. Like, you can't get that till you're on the other side of it. People
Right.
tried to help me. Like you said in your story, people tried to help me from every direction. I was a mess. Heroin addicts were telling me to go get help.
Yeah.
That's always good when they when,
was bad.
when your addict buddies are going, dude, you're fucked up.
Dude, I would like drive. I would drive other addicts to rehab in the car that I bought that came back stolen apparently.
Right.
And fucking,
Apparently.
I'd be like, yeah, man, I'm gonna help you out. I'm gonna take you to rehab. And I got like bones showing in my arm.
I got
you know what I mean?
bro.
They're like,
I got you, bro.
Yeah.
none of that shit means shit, bro. Like you're fucked.
We're going to do it together, man. We
Yeah.
got this, right?
Yeah, man.
I'll be in next week.
Oh yeah, I'll be in next week.
Then we'll get out and we'll start a business.
Hold a bit. Hold a
Start
bed
a
for me.
business.
As soon as I run out, man, I'm in. Yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah. So, you know, growing up around it, man, it just presented a different outlook on that life. It wasn't taboo. It wasn't strange. It wasn't weird. It was the life I grew up in. So it was easy to just, like I tell everybody, I walked in the other room the first time I tried heroin. I walked in the other room the first time I tried pills. I walked in the other room. Cigarettes, everything. It was in my own house.
Yeah.
I didn't have to go far. So once I made the choice up here to start trying it, to start using it, it was easy access.
Right.
And I don't think that's what made me an addict. Like I know some chemistry changed in my brain that
Right.
made me not be able to stop when the consequences
Sure.
started. But I know having that easy of access to it definitely played a role in the progression.
For
Right.
sure.
Yeah.
Well, this was, you know, this is like, you know, where a lot of people might disagree with this, but I want to do an episode on this. Is like, you know, do you think it would be easier just to like almost take like a Amsterdam standpoint and just make it all legal, and then just you know, take what money that you're allocating for the war on drugs and all this stuff and allocate that money towards like therapy or help or something like that? I mean, that's just my thought, but I mean, that could be a whole episode.
That's a deep topic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, the thing is like, you know, I don't know. I mean, it sounds like, you know, even though you knew it was bad, you still were going to try it. You know,
Yeah.
you were still going to get there. So it's just like,
Yeah.
if we just made it legal, I don't know. That's
You know,
my
I
thought.
think that's kind of what they did in Portugal, and it worked really well.
Yeah.
You know, because the thing is, I think most of us would agree that addicts don't belong in prison. It
Right.
doesn't help them.
Depends on what they do.
Right.
You
Well,
know,
that's
yeah.
true.
being addicted alone isn't enough to go to
Right.
prison.
Right.
Now,
I
if you go out and shoot somebody, I'm not talking about, you know, just being addicted to drugs shouldn't keep you incarcerated for
Right.
the rest of your life.
Some of the shit you do.
And the thing
yeah,
is, you know, when you're talking about things like growing up in a home with parents who are addicted, that's a trauma. And then you start using it at a young age. Your brain isn't even developed yet. You know, you have till
Right. 25
till your brain stops developing.
Right.
And when you start incurring consequences for possession that are landing you in jail for 5, 10, 15, and 20 years, that's not a good model to live by as a community, as a society.
For sure. For
Yeah.
sure.
It can ruin your life quick. You get a charge at age 17. It's a felony. It sticks with you. You don't get into college. You don't get the job. You don't get the apartment.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
It definitely can ruin
Oh,
your
yeah.
whole life.
I literally had friends that got arrested for weed in high school.
Yeah.
Right when I was in high school, and it was still a misdemeanor, that like missed their shot at college because they got caught smoking a fucking blunt.
Right.
You know
And
what
at
I mean?
that age, how
and
do
like
you
now,
get-
like I go out and dude, like people are just firing up everywhere, and I'm like, wow, y'all motherfuckers have it easy, bro.
Yeah,
Right.
you can almost buy it at 7-Eleven, literally.
It's
Right.
fucking ridiculous.
Well, it's getting there, and I honestly think that, you know, at some point, I think everything should just be regulated, and then take that money and put it towards towards the cure instead of like locking people up and stuff like that. I mean, to do real treatment and maybe like trauma-based therapy and stuff like that, and get to the reason behind why the person is using, you know.
There's no profit in the cure. We know that with a lot of things.
There you go.
know, one of the things when working with young people and parents, this is one of those anomalies too. Liquid THC is a felony as opposed to, regular pot is not. So what do kids do? They do with what's cool at the time. So right now, vaping and vaping THC is the way to do it.
Right.
And so you have 13, 15, 17-year-olds catching felonies over hitting a THC vape. They have no idea.
Right.
And then the parents are experiencing consequences. It's changing the trajectory of their entire life and their family's life. And it's just not right at the end of the day.
Right.
Well, back to what you were saying about because you would
Robert.
yeah. I know that, dude.
Back to that guy.
Not Brandon, the other guy.
Back to that guy.
Yeah. So what you were just saying about because we got off topic, but we started talking about how the solution based stuff is what's working instead of like the consequence based stuff, because those consequences do not become real in the middle of your addiction and with that clarity, you know what I mean, which takes a while to have. But you were talking about that road.
Yeah, they have the sayings, it takes what it takes. Everybody's bottom is different. Your bottom can go deeper, all those kinds of things. I've been around a lot of people's bottoms, and they're all different.
Right.
My bottom was different.
Right.
I didn't get clean until I was 27. Thank God I got clean at 27.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, be 47 here in a couple months. It hasn't been perfect 20-year path. I've had some dings along the way.
Right. Sure.
I'll get into that later. But for the most part, I've been clean for 20 years. And my life reflects it.
Yeah. Absolutely incredible.
It is incredible. It's a miracle. So I used hard from the time I was 14 until I was 27. I used every drug I could get my hands on. My drug of choice ended up being heroin, opiates, anything that came in that form.
Yeah.
Speedballs for a while, but I mean, I reached a few bottoms along the way. Got
somebody said the speedball.
Yeah, well,
that's from Mr. Skin Pop over here.
Yeah, that's what all that.
Not to get too detailed, but there was science behind that. It was like when I didn't like coke because it made me jittery. But if I did it with heroin, the heroin kicked in right when the coke ended. Perfect timing.
All right.
It's like I don't have to feel any kind of weirdness. I go right from one good feeling to another good feeling, and it's all good.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But, that's a whole nother danger. So,
right.
I hit a few bottoms. I got locked up. We all do, right? I mean, if you stay in that long enough, you're out there doing the things it takes to use. And when I stopped using in 1996, I had
right. It's not like you're selling vacuum cleaners out there to pay for your habit.
No, not at all, right? And your ways and means run out. Like, you can't go borrow $40 from mom anymore. You can't go borrow $40 from your buddy anymore because they all know what you're doing.
Right. Yeah.
So you got to get down to the hard. You're stealing. You're tricking people. You're going in their house when they ain't there, stealing their stuff. I mean, just the next level of addiction.
Right.
It quit being fun after a month for me.
Yeah.
And I relate to what Chad was talking about. Like, the first time I got high, I had that feeling of, this is it. I felt complete. Because, there was something wrong with me inside that I didn't understand at the time. Sorry about that.
No, you're good.
I did a Dusty on you.
Yeah.
And I looked at Dusty when I did the Dusty. That's right. Perfection. But, I mean, when I was using, it was just, it became about staying well. It wasn't, after a while, it wasn't about feeling great anymore. I mean, of course, I always chased that, right?
Right.
Chasing that feeling of carefree, no guilt. But once you start having consequences in addiction, you kind of know. Like, all my buddies are saying, man, we're not going to party tonight. We're kind of taking a night off.
Right.
And I'm like, what? Taking a night off? What are
you
you
guys
talking
are
about,
pussies.
man? What?
You guys are a bunch of weak ass dudes.
How can you just party for 2 nights and then stop?
For real.
We keep going until somebody stops us, right? I mean, that's how that works.
Right.
I lived my addiction crisis to crisis. I mean, I didn't stop till I got stopped.
Right.
I mean, I didn't
Well,
have
okay, so what was it for you that was the, I know you said you had several bottoms or rock bottoms and everything, but was there one thing that either stuck with you or were you just sick and tired of being sick and tired?
I remember the exact moment. I was in Houston. My wife, at this time, I got married. I was married 5 years. And, it wasn't all bad all the time. Like, I would build up and tear it all down. Build up, tear it all down. That was about a 4 or 5 month process each time.
Right.
And each time I did that, I would swear it off. I'd give my word to not only the people around me, but to myself. And when you do that and you can't stop, when you commit and then you go against that and you use again, every time you do that, it takes a little bit of that hope right out of you so that you'll ever actually be able to stop. Yeah. Right? Because by that time, I'm defeated too. I'm trying to stop. I don't want to use drugs anymore. Right. It has literally ruined my life, but how do I stop? So that's where I was. I was separated from my wife, so I didn't have her as a support anymore. She was a very positive support in my life. And when that went away, whatever little bit of stability I was hanging on to just fell off the end of the cliff. It was like I was at the edge of that bottom, but not quite there. And when we separated, I just went thunk right over the edge. It was just an easy jump over to get to where I needed to be. And again, that clarity wasn't there at that time. The clarity I have now, I'm speaking about, I didn't have this clarity in that exact moment, obviously. But it was a day in 2003. I'd be really old. 2003, I was in Houston at my granddad's house, who was a raging alcoholic. He kicked me out of his house because, in his words, he didn't want drug addicts running around the house, right?
Yep.
Again, back to that unsuccessful piece of the family.
Right, yeah.
If you only drank, you're good. Like, I could have been a raging alcoholic, and I would have been fine on the couch. But the fact that I had another drug of choice made me worse than him. So.
Yeah. Yep.
Anyways, so he threw $3 at me and kicked me out.
Right.
Like 3 crumpled up out of his pocket. And so at that time, I still had enough ego. I gave him his $3 back. I left, took my brother's 10-speed bike,
and sold that immediately.
Thank you. It did cross my mind. But no. My ways and means had run out by that time. So I rode that bike. It had a flat back tire on it. I rode it down to a convenience store, and at that time, I made a collect call. Yeah, that was it. Made a collect call to my wife at that time and begged her to come take me to treatment.
Okay.
And here was the key. So people ask, well, why was it that time? Why did? And I didn't know in that moment that would be my time, but I knew I needed to be done, right? But I did get a little smidgen of clarity, and that smidgen of clarity was that I was going to die if I didn't stop. And I don't know if it was God just planting that in me, like, here, you dumbass, like, here's a piece of clarity, just hold on to this. But something clicked and something changed in me, and I just thought to myself, if this is my journey, like, if this is who I'm going to be, I don't want to live like this. I would rather die.
Right.
If I just have to keep repeatedly
if it's going to be fucking heroin Groundhog Day.
Right. Get clean, tear it all down again. Get clean and just can never get any distance from that life. Yeah. And you got to remember, so 13 to 27. You talk about brain development. I mean, hello, I used all the way through that. Right. So, but I just begged her to come get me. And at that moment, I just felt like I knew that I knew, but it was a different feeling. Like, I had enough. I didn't know how I was going to do it, though. Like, obviously, I didn't have a plan. I knew I needed to get clean. But, but looking back, that's all I needed. That little smidgen of hope that I felt that day was what blossomed into my recovery. Right. But I didn't know that at the time, obviously. I didn't want to live anymore if I had to live like that. But looking back, that was it.
Well, and it's you never can really tell your rock bottom until you reach it.
And how do you get there? You know, without dying or going to prison along the way. Yeah. And that's what happens to most people. And that's the recovery miracle is that if you make it to the rooms, you're spared that. Yeah. Like, right?
Well, some people.
And so, like, getting off death row for some reason. You're watching all your buddies die, and all of a sudden you get called out, you're free.
Right. Well, okay. So what I wanted to get to, though, because we've got about 5 minutes left, what is like a paramount part of y'all's recovery is the fact that y'all do triathlons and stuff like that. So how did y'all like get involved? And then, what role does that play? I mean, obviously there's a discipline part to that that probably, keeps you adherent, and also the fact that you have to get up at 3 a.m. in the morning and stuff like that. But y'all, like I said, we've got about 5 minutes. So why don't you tell us what role that plays and how y'all got involved in it?
Yeah, I'll talk a little bit, then pass it to you, Brandon. Yeah, for me, endurance so I relapsed in 2013. Okay. My dad died, and it was weird, and I didn't have my
Was
defenses up.
was your dad in prison
No,
at the time?
he was but he hadn't got clean. He
Okay.
was still using. We had a relationship. But
Well, because I know you said he got sentenced to 40 years. So.
he got out.
Okay.
They went back again since then.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, he spent a total of 27 years of his life in prison.
Holy crap, man.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
Adult life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, that's like a good portion of your life. Yeah.
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 A bunch of it was my life.
Right, yeah.
Some of it after I was an adult, but a lot of it as I was a kid.
Sure.
So, we spoke the other night on a Instagram Live, and I could have talked for probably 4 hours. But I have a lot of stuff to talk. My story goes pretty deep. But yeah, so in NA, like I got clean in NA. I found my family there. Some guys saved my life. I mean, I literally walked in. Homer, Zito. I mean, I love these guys. They're my original crew that I related to initially. I remember the first time I looked at somebody in recovery and thought, damn, that dude was just like me, and he's clean now.
Right.
And he's got a nice truck.
Right.
That seems to be the barometer, when you first walk in.
I want a nice truck.
Right.
He's clean. He has a nice truck. It smells good. Yeah. Might
He's
have
got
a house.
cool shoes, got a good watch. Okay, I'm in.
So when the pandemic started, I was still active in the meetings. When the pandemic started, I stayed away from the meetings a little bit. So the endurance, I was already kind of running, but the endurance, the next level endurance, we started doing Ironman races, long marathons. Brandon and I do some trail runs together. It was basically to replace recovery temporarily,
Right.
because everybody needed somewhere to go, and we didn't want to just go sit in our house and the saying, an addict alone's in bad company.
Yeah.
Right? Hello.
Right.
So me, Adam, and Brandon just kind of started going. Started in the lake down there and just got in and didn't know a thing about swimming.
Dusty
Probably
was
should have
with
died a couple times.
He was on a kayak.
Dusty
I
came
was on
out
a
with-
kayak.
That's always
Yeah.
fun. Oh, you would
Right.
follow them in a kayak?
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice.
Once you survive active addiction, it's like I can pretty much do anything after
Literally.
that. So, right? So becoming an Ironman was like, I don't want to say easy, but
Right. It's
compared to surviving heroin, it was not hard. Not as that. It wasn't as hard as that. So,
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it just all kind of goes together. You know how the addict brain is always chirping, right? Well, the cool thing about running or biking is that when you're in that, it's quiet. And that's the best way to describe it for addicts to understand, is that when you're doing that particular activity, your brain is quiet.
You're 100% present.
You're present. Yes.
Right.
And that's what I love about it.
Yeah.
What you got, buddy?
Oh, you covered it, man.
I left you a couple minutes.
Yeah. Well, we got some. So we created the TRI-MIGOS.
TRI-MIGOS.
And then
Here, well, I'll show the sticker here.
yeah,
Right here.
are. Yeah. So that's
There we
us. And
That looks better than your face.
Yeah, I know, dude.
On that
Here, I'll
camera
just keep
angle?
this up here
That
the
is
whole
not from the
time.
Banditos.
Yeah.
we started in 2020 was when we got together. And we just finished last November was our official Ironman in Tempe, Arizona.
Oh, wow.
That's a 140.6 mile race. So
Wow.
that was the goal at the time. Since then,
Tell us the distances, Brandon.
Let me
okay,
ask
okay,
you a
go
dumb
ahead.
question.
Go ahead.
So, as far as Ironman, so this is all like consecutive. Like, how long does that usually take of a period to finish an Ironman for, like for an average guy, not a pro?
12 to 14 hours,
Okay. All right.
unless you're a badass.
All right.
So in February, I tried to bump up that adventure a little bit, and I did a 50-mile race, trail run. So yeah, that was something I did. And in October, we're going to be going to Waco, so he can show Waco what's up now, since Waco showed him what's
I
up.
left Waco in handcuffs.
Oh, wow.
So I'm going back
Okay.
there doing Ironman in
So
October.
we're gonna, in October we're going to do an Ironman out there. Yeah.
Okay,
And so,
cool.
And then in November I got 100K, so that'll be like a 62-mile trail run. So
Right.
yeah.
Well, and if they want to follow you, don't y'all do
Okay,
it like
so
on Instagram
it's
Live?
Instagram. I'm Run Sober, but it's RUNS0B3R. Run Sober would be me
Okay.
on Instagram.
I'm Denton_dad.
Okay.
Denton dad.
And then our group is the TRI-MIGOS 2020. would
And
be.
y'all do some kind of live Facebook or Instagram?
We were just
just
we were
did
just a
a-
guest. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
we just
yeah,
did
so
another
somebody
podcast
else.
with
Gotcha.
somebody.
Yeah, and I wanted to share something too.
Yeah.
One of the reasons why I wanted to have you guys on is because, we're always promoting multiple pathways. And sometimes people think, oh, well, just getting sober is just not doing drugs anymore, not drinking
Yeah,
anymore.
yeah.
And you guys, your lifestyle, and utilizing this type of training, it just goes to show you that's a pathway to recovery. That fitness is a pathway, just like AA is a pathway.
Well, I think for you, actually, your fitness is a big part of your recovery, or it
Absolutely.
is a big part of your identity, for sure.
Yeah, it's huge. Like I got more into the weightlifting stuff, but I couldn't hang with these guys. I think the last time I ran, I think I barely hit 5 miles, and I retired.
Yeah, mine and
5 miles is a long time.
Mine and Chad's part of recovery is making music and smoking cigarettes.
Yeah, man. I'll tell you what, dude. I ran a 162-mile triathlon quad lawn the other day, and I was just like, you know what, man, I'm gonna let these guys have it. I finished it in 3 minutes, dude. It's because my leg is super
Chad,
record, man.
Chad,
You know what I'm saying?
Chad ran so hard they had to amputate his leg.
Yeah, I won the race, but it cost me a leg. It almost cost me an arm and a leg, but luckily it was just a leg.
Man.
No, well, that was the first
Better
time.
story.
Yeah, I know.
Hey, well, I want to
I
thank.
lost it in an Ironman competition.
One more thing, Shar. So this is cool.
Yeah.
So Brandon left this out because he said I kind of inspired him, but watching him and the guys have inspired me. But one of the things he left out is that house of horrors that he used to live in, where he threw all the shit in the fireplace.
That's where you would hang out.
Dusty was there.
Actually, he was there for some of that.
Dusty had a VIP pass, a VIP
But that's
membership.
the cool part about it is now that's a sober living home called Janie's Place.
Oh wow, that's
It's
crazy.
a sober living for women. So it was like, where they take a old nightclub and they turn it into a church.
Oh yeah.
That's like Brandon's house, his old trap house. Now it's a beautiful place where women can heal.
Wow, that's kind of
pretty
crazy.
That's
amazing
super
deal.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So a mutual friend of ours, Jennifer Dunlap, which you might have met. She's the director over there. So shout out to helping make that happen. But
Right.
That's pretty cool.
That is cool.
Very cool.
That is cool. Well, thanks for coming out, guys. I appreciate you sharing your story, and I think it's very inspirational. And then the whole triathlon thing is just beyond me. But
Thank you.
but
Thanks for having us
But
on.
yeah. Shout out to doing whatever it takes to get clean and stay there, man.
Let me say something real quick.
Yeah, sure.
Quick on that, Dusty. Dusty's right. There are multiple paths to recovery, but I want to say something important for me. I couldn't have started with fitness,
Right.
because I had used so long and I never developed life skills.
Yeah.
So when I went to 12-step recovery, I got taught how to live. The fitness took it to another level for me, but I needed that foundation first. I could not have stayed clean. Not to mention a average triathlon bike's a couple $1,000s. I mean, who has a couple $1,000s when you first get clean, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Looking for a place to live.
And
much
I
less.
see a bunch of people, dude, that go into treatment, and guess what they do? They stop working any sort of program, and they just start working out. And then the next thing you know, they're shooting steroids, and the next thing you know, they're relapsed, and they're back in the same treatment center again. And then they keep doing that shit over and over, and it happens all the time because they get sober long enough to be like, okay, cool, I don't have to do this shit. I'm just gonna work out all the time. And it's like, dude, fuck off, man. Just sit with yourself for a minute
mental,
till you
physical,
can
right?
figure out what happens, and then go for it.
Yeah, you
know
need
what
to
I mean?
develop those fundamentals and whatever pathway you choose. You know? But just changing diet, nutrition, and running is not gonna.
Oh, no.
be the key to long-term sobriety.
Threefold: mental, physical, spiritual. Like you were talking about.
Yeah.
It's all tied together.
Yeah, man.
Well, cool. Well, hey, Chadwick, thank you for coming out.
Yeah.
Dusty, we'll see you next week. We actually have Frank, and it's Mink, pronounced Mink, but he is actually out of L.A., so we're going to have him Zoom in. He is he's an interesting cat, dude. He's got a lot of opinions, and he's a very anti-neo-Nazi guy. He was a neo-Nazi, and now he's anti-neo-Nazi.
Nice.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, good times.
It's a good transition.
Yeah,
Full
right.
circle, man.
Right, there we go. But looking forward to having that. Thanks again for coming on, guys. Hey, remember, everybody, there is no magic pill for sobriety, because if there was, we would all take too many.